Picture this: Keith Richards, the grizzled and unapologetic backbone of the Rolling Stones, sits in a shadowy room, his raspy voice cutting through the air like a blade. Today, his focus isn't on the endless tales of rock and roll excess from his own band, but on another icon, Elton John. Richards, known for his brutally honest and often scathing remarks, finally breaks his silence on the legendary singer-pianist. His words reveal a complex portrait of Elton John, a man of breathtaking talent but also towering contradictions, a story of brilliance entwined with conflict, resilience, and struggle. Think of the 1970s, when Elton John's career was nothing short of meteoric. His flamboyant costumes, soaring piano melodies, and unmistakable voice made him a global superstar. Hits like Your Song and Rocket Man cemented his place in music history. But beneath the glitter and glamour lay a man battling the pressures of fame and the weight of his own insecurities. Elton's rise wasn't without friction. His creative partnership with Bernie Taupin, while legendary, was far from smooth. Taupin's reserved demeanor often clashed with Elton's larger-than-life personality. Miscommunications and disagreements over creative direction caused tension, leading to brief separations that threatened to derail their collaboration. Their partnership endured, but it revealed the underlying strain that followed Elton's success. Even as he dominated the charts, Elton's temperament began to show cracks. Those who worked closely with him often found themselves on the receiving end of his fiery moods and perfectionism. Producers and bandmates described him as both inspiring and exhausting, a man who demanded as much from those around him as he did from himself. Elton John's immense success placed him alongside the biggest names in music, but it also led to high-profile rivalries that became as iconic as his songs. One of the most infamous was his feud with David Bowie. Once friendly contemporaries, their relationship soured over time. Bowie's comments dismissing Elton as rock and roll's liberace sparked a bitter animosity. Elton, never one to hold back, returned the disdain, and their once promising camaraderie became a long-standing rivalry. Madonna became another target of Elton's sharp tongue in the 2000s, when he publicly criticized her for lip-syncing during performances, igniting a media frenzy. For Elton, these feuds weren't just personal, they were battles for what he saw as artistic integrity. But his confrontational approach often alienated those around him, leaving behind a trail of fractured relationships. The tension between Keith Richards and Elton John was a clash of two rock legends with vastly different approaches to fame and artistry. Richards, the embodiment of raw, gritty rock and roll, often viewed Elton's extravagant style and larger-than-life persona as overblown. To Keith, Elton's theatricality seemed at odds with the unpolished, rebellious ethos that defined rock music in its purest form. Their unspoken rivalry occasionally spilled into public comments. Richards was famously dismissive of Elton's music, once calling it too polished and lacking the raw edge he valued. Elton, known for his quick wit and sharp tongue, didn't hesitate to fire back, dismissing Richards' criticisms as the grumblings of someone stuck in a bygone era. Their paths crossed at award shows and charity events, where the tension was palpable. For Richards, Elton represented a version of rock and roll he struggled to respect, one that embraced showmanship over grit. Meanwhile, Elton likely saw Richards as dismissive of his creative genius, undervaluing the artistry behind his elaborate performances. Offstage, Elton John's life was a battlefield. The pressures of fame, coupled with his insecurities, drove him into a spiral of substance abuse that nearly derailed his career in the 1980s. Cocaine and alcohol became his escape, but they also fueled erratic behavior that further strained his relationships. Elton's personal life was equally turbulent. His brief marriage to Renate Blall in 1984 was a poignant chapter, marked by hope but ultimately doomed. Struggling to reconcile his identity, Elton ended the marriage amicably but with lasting emotional scars. Perhaps the most painful of Elton's conflicts was with